Hey everyone, welcome to a new episode of Git Gud at OpenRCT2. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to make a nice looking log flume. Now, first off, we'll start with the station. Now, for the stations of log flumes, there are several things you could do. Most of these rides, I believe, just have a typical straight station. But I've also been on several which actually had a turntable station. So for that you could simply just make a track like this and just try to make something like a round thing here in the middle, simply with two paths extending to it. If you want to do a turntable station, what would probably look even nicer is to just use a splashboard track. So let's change to the splashboard track like this. Splash boats right over here. So you could do something like this. So you would simply make a station here, only entrance here, only an exit here. You could connect some paths to it like this. So could make it go here in the middle. Like that, and then you could, for example, put some woody track under it. Let's disable the clearance checks. And let's build it a little bit lower there. Oh, you could make it look something like this. You could even also put some wooden track also on the outside of the track. Just to make it look a little bit more complete. Could even raise the ground here, or put some scenery here. Yeah, whatever works for you. Scenery probably looks better than than just raising the ground there. Something like that. In the end, it's up to you to theme it nicely. But yeah, some log flumes have a turntable station like this, so you will actually board from a rotating platform. The boats rotate at the same speed as the platform, so then it will be easy to get in. Of course, for the operators of the ride, it will be slightly tiresome, because they have to keep walking all day. But yeah, for a normal station, it's of course easier to build, as it will just be in a straight line. I will just quickly build something here. There we go, just a straight line. Now, for our log flume, really, the ride elements itself are usually only part of the experience. Usually they go through quite a long layout, featuring lots of theming right next to the track. So you should really do your best to make it look nice. For theming, you could think of a pirate village or like a sawmill or yeah, stuff like that, or Egyptian theme even. Yeah, there's just a lot that could work for you. One thing that you sometimes also see is that log flume is built like a dark ride, so it will be inside of a building with sometimes the drop coming out of the building. Yeah, there are just a lot of possibilities for your layout. Of course, if you're gonna build it outside, well, you can probably make it a little bit more spacious than when you would put it inside. Then you would probably need a bit more of a compact layout. Now, as for the log flume layouts, what you will typically see in a log flume is that they will have 3 drops usually. For the smaller ones, they typically have 2 drops, but you will usually see 3 drops. And typically one of those drops will be inverted. Well, not every log flume has a turntable, but some of them do. And yeah, when they do, usually one of the drops is reversed. So let's just make a reversing section here. Now, what I like to do for a reversing section is not continue building like this, but instead what I like to do is just copy this reversing section. And so I copied this piece and I pasted it, so there's 2 of this piece here. And then we take the bottom one in the list and we simply rotate it. And then we can continue building from it. So this way, well, we can actually see it in action here. If we do this, then the boats will reverse, but instead of continuing on in the same direction, they will actually rotate 90 degrees. This is something you will also see, for example, on the log flumes in Walibi, Holland, or the one in Walibi, Belgium. I think this gives you an opportunity to make a nicer reversing section. It might be nice to hide this part inside a building, or maybe you want it to be visible. That's really up to you. So, what's important is that after a drop, you make some runoff track. So just make sure that there's some straight track for the boat to actually lose speed before you go into any turns or curves. Also remember that if there are guests inside the boat, it will be quite a lot heavier than it is without. And heavier boats will take longer to lose their speed. Now, again, you should probably make some track with some decorations before you move on to the next element. So for example, you could do something like this with it going around some stuff. You could even have it, maybe place some scenery which sprays water on the guests, something like that. Okay, then here, for example, we could make our next drop. We could do the same again with another turntable, because we'll want it to go forwards again at some point. So again, we rotate the lower track piece, because the lower one is the one that the boats will go to. And then if we click it, we can simply continue building from it. So here will be the second drop of the ride. And this one will be forwards again. Again, we'll have some runoff track. Okay, and well, like I said, most of these rides have 3 drops. The last drop is typically the biggest one. You'll want to build up the tension in these rides, and the last drop is typically also the one which gives the riders a big splash. And yeah, you'll definitely don't want to continue the ride after the big splash, because the guests might be soaked and it will be quite cold if they have to keep going. So after the final big drop, you should return back to the station and not wait too long with that. So I will just make a simple track here. Let's just carry on here. Okay, and then here we'll make a lift hill. Something you could also do, for example, is make a vertical lift hill, hide it inside a building. It would be a lift where the guests would just be carried horizontally with their boats, something like that. You can think of many things to do to lift the boats up. Typically, they will just have a normal lift hill like this. Okay, we'll need to disable the support limits in order to continue building, so let's do that. Now, how high you make it is up to you. Let's go with 16.5, or whatever kind of units you have set it to. Now, something that you will really often see on log flumes, but which is actually missing in this game, is steeper drops than the standard one. What you will usually see people do in this game is to actually make a steep drop on a log flume. Now, I will just build a bit of track here. We'll want it to return to the station here. So what I'm going to do is just I probably just should have gone up here with the lift hill. Actually, I'll just do that right now. We'll want to have some space here to build. So instead of going to the left there, I'll go to the right. And I'll just pass under the track here. Like that. And then we go up here. And that will give us some more space here at the end. and then I don't have to do a weird turn around here. Okay, let's go with 18 meters. Alright, now if we want a steep drop here, we'll have to merge some track. The easiest way to do this is simply here by selecting a different ride type. Let's go with dinghy slide. It doesn't really matter which ride type we select here, as long as it has a steep drop. So here we just go like this. Well, how long do we want it to be? Actually, I think I'll go with a double drop, just like the one in Walibi Holland has. But yeah, you can make any kind of drop that you want here. Okay, and then here in the end, make sure there's a long splash section. I think I'll go a little bit further out, because I don't want to run out of space here. There, let's go up like this. I think 16.5 was high enough. So I'll go a little bit more out here as well. Okay, and then let's make a steep drop here. Again, I'll make the double drop. And there we go. And we'll have a long runoff section here, so the boats can lose speed. And after that, here we'll return back to the station. Now, I'll just quickly remove this little example here. Okay, now here we have a big splash section. So you'll always want guests to be able to see the splash, or well, to see the drop. And you'll definitely, if possible, you'll definitely want to have some path interaction there. For example, you could just make a path right next to it, or if you're more daring, you could also make a path over it. But yeah, you'll definitely want to have some interaction like this. This will always work well at a log flume. It's usually one of the points that draws guests to a ride like this. Really, the big splash is really what they will have to see when you make a ride like this. So yeah, for a big splash, always make some paths next to it. Also, for example, if you make a dark ride style log flume, so it's all inside a building, you should make sure that your guests can still see the big splash from the queue. For example, you could make the queue a bit beside it. For example, it's just like this, but just so the guests would be able to actually see the splash. When guests are standing in a queue, you definitely don't want to soak them with water, because that would make them very cold, and you don't want that. Especially in a queue when you're standing still, you don't want to be soaked with water. Now, when we change this ride type back to a log flume, then actually the track here will become invisible. So let's change it back to log flume. You can see the track here becomes invisible. How we will remedy that is we will just build a dinghy slide track like this. I'll build it in the reverse direction just to prevent any merging. Like that. Now it will look like the log flume boats are actually using this track. They will not be using this track. This track is just here for decoration, but it will look like they are using it. Now, probably a good idea to make the original log flume pieces invisible here. Like that. Could also recolor it. You should probably also make this piece invisible. There's another track type which works quite well for this, but you cannot build it in the reverse direction, because the splashboard track doesn't really have sprites for steep upwards pieces. So if you want to use the splashboard track for it, well, the good thing about this track is that it looks more like the log flume track, because it also has water on the top. If you use the dinghy slide track, you'll probably also want to give it a different color. something like that. But yeah, if you want to use the splashboard track, well, let's remove the dinghy slide track. Well, what you'll want to do is simply copy and paste these track pieces here and make sure they're on top. So here so now we can see two track pieces here in this tile. So we can see the log flume and we can see the splashboards that I just copied on top of here. And the easiest way to just complete this drop is simply selecting this track piece. So right now I'm holding Control and clicking it so that then it automatically selects this track piece. I copy it. I'm using hotkeys, but normally this button is copy. And here we paste it. And this button can be used for pasting. Again, I'm using hotkeys. I've set copy and pasting to Ctrl C and Ctrl V. So yeah, just copy and paste these track pieces like so, and make sure they're on top, or else you will actually merge the track, and that's not what you want. It might lead to your boats crashing, and that's probably better avoided. Alright, and that will look like this. This is also something you could be going for. I usually use the dinghy slide track, but I've also used this track sometimes. It's really up to what you prefer. Now, one thing you will often see under log flumes is actually at areas after a drop. Also under some of the other areas, there will often be water. Might be a bit below the track, but yeah, there will often be water, and that's usually because a lot of water goes right next to the track in these splash sections. So the water just gets collected here, and it can be pumped up and reused for actually filling the track with water here. Because yeah, a lot of water will fall down here, and it would just be a waste if all the water fell on the land here. But yeah, it's up to you if you want it to be that realistic. You could connect the different parts of the water. But usually, like I said, there will be quite a bit of water under the track. Now, there are other ways to decorate your track. For example, you could put a dinghy slide track right under your track if you want to make it look more beefy. So right now I have the cheat selected for allow building track at invalid heights. That just allows you to build more easily build stuff under your track. For example, you could do something like this, and it will make your track look more thick. I kind of like doing it this way, but again, it's up to you what you want to use, and if you want to make your track look more thick. Oh, something else that might look nice is to use a wooden coaster track. That also works under the drop, for example. So let's give it a nice wooden color. It's probably more realistic if the supports actually use pillars, but if you want that, you can probably figure out a way to do that. Yeah, you could make the original supports of this wooden track invisible, and or maybe also put a track under it that has these pillars as supports, and then yeah, that is something that could work if you want pillars under it. But that's really up to you what you want to use. The wooden track, I think it definitely works well as extra supports for this track. Actually, you may need to make it a little bit higher here under this track, if that's what you want to use. But yeah, that's just some ways to make this track look nicer. And another new track that will probably also look pretty nice is to use the hybrid coaster. Looks kind of strange, but it could probably work in some way. It's not actually visible under the track now. Now it looks like the track is supported by these ledgers. it's just one way you could use this track. Not really sure if this is the nicest thing you could do with it, but for sure it might be worth a try. RMC log flume. Alright, yeah, that was pretty much it for this tutorial. Yeah, I hope the tutorial is useful for you. I hope you learned a thing or two about log flumes here. Yeah, for sure, this is by far not everything there is to know about log flumes. Yeah, one thing you should probably know is, well, we've made these reversers like this now, but that means the track is no longer continuous. So if you do this, you should either continue building the track like this. For example, a trick that I like to use is to use the wooden wild mouse. So then we just finish the track here like this. We could do the same here. And since the log flume doesn't have these track pieces, they will become invisible. And now the track is a continuous circuit again, because we finished the track with these tight turns. So the game will register it as a continuous circuit. So that you can just use continuous circuit mode. If you cannot get it to work, you can also just use a mode like a boat hire mode. For that, you would need to what's it? Show all operating modes. There it is. Just change it to boat hire mode, or you could use powered launch with a launch speed of 3 kilometers per hour, something like that. Yeah, there's many operating modes that you could use. Okay, so yeah, I think the most important things to remember are to have some runoff areas after the drops. To have to aim for a total of 3 drops. Some may have 4 or 2. I think that's enough drops for a log flume, and you should really do your best to theme the areas they travel through. Like I said, the drops are only part of the experience. It should really have some nice stuff next to the track for the guests to experience or to look at while they're riding it. Now, one final thing is that there are actually some log flumes which actually have an airtime hill in the track, like Chiapas at what's it called, Fantasia Land. Now, when you make something like this, it might look nice to actually make it look as if just to make it look like there's water all over the track, something like this. Probably looks nicer than having a part of a lift hill right over here. Of course, you would actually have to put a lift hill here, but you would just have to make it invisible. So you should just finish the track like this, and then just make the lift hill invisible. Something like that. Or you could actually make it look like there's a rail for the boats to go over. But yeah, there are log flumes which have airtime hills. In those log flume boats, you usually actually have some restraint, so you cannot actually fly out of the boat or stand up, because that would be really dangerous. Oh yeah, there was still something that I forgot to tell. Yeah, as for theming, yeah, you could really think of a lot of stuff to theme your log flume boats to. I already named some things like pirates or jungle or Egyptian. I made one in my mega park, and it will usually look nice. For example, if your log flume pops out of a temple or something, or if it pops out of a pyramid, something like that. It will usually look really great if you make your final big drop. Yeah, come out of a really epic building, or even out of a tree, something like that. There's just so many opportunities for you to theme it in a nice way. So I really recommend doing that. Alright, that was it for this tutorial. I hope it was useful for you. I hope to see you all make very nice log flumes using this tutorial. And I'll see you again in the next episode. See you later.